What's going on, everybody? Looking at the Mikuni VM series. This is a VM30SS, which is found on tons of different ATVs, especially two-stroke models like Polaris, and I'm sure tons of others, but this is specifically from a 2006 Polaris Trail Blazer 250 two-stroke. And I just wanted to show you real quick how the float system works and how yours needs to be set up as per service manual instructions. Now, of course, in regular use, it'll look like this. But notice this is called the float arm down here. And it's controlled by, in the float bowl right here, these little guys, these little floats ride up and down on this little float rod, and of course it tells you which needs to be in the up position. Notice that there. So that means this slides here, and as fuel comes in to the float bowl here from your gas tank, these floats start to rise up, and then these little tips right here will push the float arm, push that up until it gets to a certain point. Then fuel flow will stop so that it will not keep overflowing. And if it overflows, it'll start filling this little spout here, which will start running out the side of your tank. Right here, it'll start running out this overflow tube. And if yours is constantly flowing out there, that means that your float system needs servicing. It means that these need to be removed. And to take these off, they need to be cleaned inside and out. See, they have those little holes right there. Those need to be cleaned. These rods need to be cleaned also. You can use like a little really fine sandpaper or just something that can clean any gunk off of these little rods here. Now, also, be aware that these little caps right here are easy to misplace. Fortunately, you can purchase them. If you just look for a Mikuni float cap or something like that on eBay, you can find these replacement caps. They're not cheap. You're talking $8 to $10 for a pair of them. But if you lost them, whatever, what are you going to do? So make sure you be careful not to lose these caps here. But anyway, the good thing is you can clean all this out so that these floats can rise up and down easily. Okay, so that's very important. All right, now your little float arm here with your little float valve, which is this little silver guy right here. Now I'm going to flip it upside down to show you what your setting needs to look like. Okay, so basically with it resting on its own weight, that arm going across there should be, if you held it, parallel to the base of the carburetor, this should be just above level from this surface here. So you're talking a 1 millimeter above being completely parallel to this base right here. Okay? And also, make sure that your float valve is in good order. Make sure that it's not dirty or damaged or sticking, because if that's also malfunctioning, you'll have problems as well. So, you can push this little pin out here, if I can do it with this plastic piece of nothing here. Hold on one second and I'll get this out. Okay, now to get this pin out right here, you might have to be firm with it. You might have to tap on it on the small end, because see, it does have a little capped end. So the other end is the one that will slide out, obviously. Or you may have to use a tiny little punch or something to get that out of there. And this just slides out like this. This should be cleaned as well. Clean this off of any burrs or debris or whatever. So a little fine sandpaper to clean that off. Okay, now, and notice the way it comes off of here, that tip towards the inside here needs to face technically downward, but when you have it in this position, it's going to face upward. Okay. All this should be clean. Make sure that inside here is clean as well. So use any little fine pokers or teeny little brushes or something that you can get in there. They even make like gun cleaning kits that have tiny little spiral brushes that'll help you clean this area out. Okay, so it'll look like this basically. Like so. Okay, and then the little float valve here. When you take this out, make sure that this area in here is not all gouged out or excessively worn. Know what I mean? Make sure this is a nice even tip that you see right there. If it's got gouges, you know, or circle gouges around it, you should replace this float valve. And you can get an entire kit. You know, you can get an entire rebuild kit for this thing, you know, something like this. Not much money. So it can, you know, it'll come with main jet, pilot jet, you know, your float valve jet right there, float jet, and a couple other things. The base gasket will come with it. So there's a variety of different rebuild kits you can get for this and pretty much any motorcycle carburetor these days. But the issue is the float level position that this needs to be at for operational purposes. Here's what we do. Okay, let's put it back together real quick. You just slide this. Excuse the darkness here. Just slide that over that little tang right there. You know, you have to be careful, be delicate with this because it'll want to jump out of your hand, if you know what I'm saying. So just steadily set her down. Excuse me if it's a little bit off focus. Gently push this guy till it seats lightly right there. All right. Now notice this again. If you need to adjust this arm, like if yours is going way too far down or if it's way too high up, that means your float position is way off. If that's the case, this little tang in the center, you can physically just bend it with you know, a pick or a needle nose or whatever you can do. Just you have to bend it. You know, if you bend it down, it's going to allow the arm to come up some. If you bend it the other direction, it'll allow the float arm to go downward. So it depends on what your needs are, you know, but basically you want it to look like this when it's just sitting normally on that little spring. Okay, that makes sense? There you go. And then when you put her all back together, you know, you can test it also. Like, check this out. I did this the other day. It was kind of neat. Just doing some little experiments to make sure the floats are working properly. Like taking some fuel. Got some fuel right here. Now watch what happens to these floats. I need to pour some more in there, but you pour some fuel in there. I didn't pour enough, of course. Let's pour some more in there and you'll watch the floats rise up. All right, let's try this again. I'm just taking some fuel here, pouring it into this float bowl as if it were an operational position. See how the floats just rise up like that? And what I've found is when the float is measured correctly, the bowl should hold about 48 cc's of fuel. So, you know, whatever. I don't think that's a spec or anything. That's just something that I've noticed. So make sure that your floats operate properly. You know, if they have a hole in them or something, or if they're cracked or damaged, your floats won't rise up like this, which means there's no way for the fuel to be managed properly coming into your float bowl. So anyway, there's something for you to try out there. We like messing with carburetors here and fixing stuff, and you know, we're not professional, perfect service mechanics or whatever, but we do work on a wide variety of little vehicles, you know, small engines, motorcycles, dirt bikes, ATVs, lawnmowers. We even mess with cars and trucks and a little bit of everything. So, you know, check out our channel. You might find some other things that that might help you, because we're always messing with something around here. And like I said, this is from a Mikuni